What you have in front of you is 3 different rubrics which we will go through and 3 different presentation templates. Now the presentation templates don't look so hot when they are they're printed, but we'll show you what they look like. So let's go through the options. There are some. We plan to be finished with the first set of the lecture in about 40 minutes and then probably within an hour, but then there's a lot of admin that you have to make sure that you have to go to do. Okay. There's some really basic rules that you need to comply with. Everybody that's on this course need to do the following. Remember last week we discussed your portfolio that you have to put together very much at the end. You have to prepare and present your portfolio about what you've done on this course before the end of August. Among other things, but go look at presentation 18. It's called 18 and was last week the second lot. You need to talk about all the assignments. So you need to have your assignments. You need to have the feedback. So you need to present a full portfolio of what you have been doing and to what extent you have engaged with the course. What we will also do is we will verify who's attended when, so that we have an attendance record for everybody in there. That's one of the requirements. The second requirement is very simply that everybody has to finish the proposal. Now we know that some of you are not yet at the point that you can present your proposal, but that does not mean that you're going to get away with not developing your proposal. We're going to have different timelines, but everybody has to finish their proposal. And every single person have to present next week. Who of you have not seen the schedule, the presentation schedule for next week? Okay. There's going to be sessions on Monday. Who's presenting? You have that. If I go
marketing
through
and logistics and management and entrepreneurship.
Okay. There's 2 venues. Make absolutely certain that you know at which venue you are.
No, Monday is only one.
And Monday's only one venue in here. Tuesday there's 2 venues. So Tuesday we're splitting, and one of us will be in that session with the rest of the department's research committee. So the DRIC members would be in there. Your supervisor, if you have a supervisor, would be in there. And one of us will be in there as well. You will then present. Okay. You have 15 minutes, but we'll go through that. Present, you'll be questioned. Students will leave the venue and we'll have a deep and interesting debate about what we think of your work. Now, needless to say, if you have a supervisor and you go and present something there that your supervisor isn't happy about or haven't seen, this is not going to make the discussion pleasant for you. Okay? So it's very important that your supervisor has to be up to date with where you are and what you intend to present in front of his or her peers, which gives you very, very little time. So we're going to go through what you need to put in place, and you have to make certain. So these 3 things are non-negotiable. We are also going to deal with the ethics application. Now, you can choose to do your ethics application on your own, but I wouldn't recommend that. Completing an ethics application is a lot of technical bits that you have to make sure. So basically, there are some things that you have to know about this whole presentation session. You have your schedule. Don't be late. Okay? Because if the things start running over time, everybody gets more and more tense. Your supervisor will probably be taking notes, because when you're standing in front and presenting to people, you don't quite hear. You're very tense and you don't really take that feedback on board. If you don't have a supervisor at this point, it would be very sensible for you to arrange one of your colleagues in this group to to take notes on your behalf, to sit with you and take those notes so that you're absolutely sure that you get that feedback. Because that feedback you're going to take on board for the improvement of your research project or what as you develop further. And that feedback will come from a variety of people. Typically you'll have at least 5 people sitting in that committee, and any one of them might be giving some feedback. Now it's important to realize that that feedback should be filtered through your supervisor. The primary person that directs your research, that assists you, is your supervisor. So the feedback may come from a variety of different points, and it is sensible to funnel them through your supervisor. If you don't have a supervisor, you've got to put them together, and we'll have to deal with some discussion on how that can be funneled. Okay. You have to present on the TUT template. Now the TUT template, and I'm going to show you now, looks something like this. One thing that you must note, on the top right hand corner there used to be something that talks about corporate communication. I have simply added a white block over it. So it's not fully a template, just make sure that that white block stays over. Your presentation must be on the TUT format, and there are in fact 3 different formats that I will discuss at each point with you. The second thing, your presentation should be available on a clean stick. So when you come in there, don't faff around, make sure you have a clean stick, meaning no viruses, okay, having checked. In fact, it was quite sensible to have 2 different ones in case you misplace, because when you get tens, one misplaces the most amazing things. And probably a printout as well. Okay. Also make sure that the copies of both your presentation and the relevant document is with your supervisor in time, so that that document is with him. And you have to be in time. We don't want to spend a lot of time and irritate everybody and get them up into the wrong mood by just being late with the presentation. If you don't have a supervisor, please make certain that your presentation and your document is with Prof. Barry on the day before you present. So if you present on Monday morning 6 o'clock, everything should be there, so that she at least has some time to print out everything and make sure that it's there. Different supervisors may have different requirements. There might be some of them that won't even accept anything that didn't go in yesterday already. So let's go through it. Now, although you have although you have read and really dealt with emotionally on your proposal, and your supervisor has read that 12-page document or the 150 words, the DRIC has not read it. So you have a beautifully crafted document of probably much closer to 20 pages when all the accessories is with it. Nobody else has read it. So your presentation must speak for itself. So you must be very certain that all the pertinent detail is in that presentation, because you'll be fielding questions left, right and center the whole time if you haven't done that. So, you have 15 minutes. How many slides can you present in 15 minutes?
10 to 12.
10 to 12 maximum. You'll see that there's 12 in that template. But that will mean that you have to be very sensible and very structured about that. And you need to time yourself. Okay? Make sure that you go through that presentation. When one gets tense, you talk faster. Your voice gets higher because your stomach pulls in and you start shaking. Okay? So prepare. Make sure that you prepare and then remain confident and calm. Okay? If you're there in front, you can do nothing anymore. You must just present it. That's life. Now things can happen, but that's life. You're there. So make sure that you present and that you're within that 15 minutes. Because there is a chance in any one of those that the chair of the DRIC can cut you after 15 minutes. Say, we don't listen anymore. What you haven't said just didn't exist. Okay. So be very careful about that. So practice to time yourself. Okay. So when you, both of them, they're separate. Presenting. Who of you have presented with PowerPoint before? Okay. Now, when you look at my slides, they're not really busy. They don't have sexy pictures on them. They don't move. Why? How do you feel about things that zip in left and flash out right and have really complicated? It's difficult to see and it's difficult to focus. Okay. Another thing that's very important, these are I think a little bit bigger than font 20, but if you go to a font size under 20, people cannot see it. So if you want to make sure and certain that people can see it, stand at least 1 meter back from your screen and read it from 1 meter. Sitting in front of it and reading might mean that the people sitting here will see that, and those that are sitting in the back that are not disadvantaged by youth and such things might also take this very badly if they can't see what you actually have written there. So make certain that you do not go to a font size under 20. So you have the prescribed template, you've got the font. You'll also see that we go for a really, really boring Arial font. It doesn't have frills, it doesn't have shadows or anything of that. Do you remember my first slide? It has shadows on. Is it easy to read? It's not easy. It's also very difficult to read fancy script. It's also very difficult to keep your mind about if every sentence is in a different color. So when you use an accent color, try to stick to 1 or 2 at a time. And you'll see that I have everything in black and I have the serious points in red. So be very careful about that. And please note that writing in capitals, is difficult to read. Can you see there?
And it's shouting.
And it's shouting. That's shouting. I only put that when I want to shout. So put that together. Then the next thing, you have to remember that anybody reads faster than what you can present. So if you start looking at that and you write out everything and you try and read it, you frustrate the living daylights out of people. We put little bullets there. And those bullets are for me to remember because I don't have script notes, but I can remember what I want to say when I see those things. And it's also to guide the attention of whoever is reading. In many cases, I would recommend that you use a diagram. And a picture explains a lot more than bullets, don't it? So when we talk about your research design, we want you to put in a diagram and not too much words. Try and see what you can do and how you can present it. There's also a statement that says, I can't write you, sorry that I wrote you a long letter, I don't have the time to write a short letter. Okay? So what that means, you are trying to put, say, 12 pages of information onto 12 slides. And one page of densely scripted information doesn't easily go on that amount of bullets. Go back and see all the things that I've presented and work out what it is. So you want to do. Now the next thing, I don't have a pointer here. One of the things is when you get tense, there's different things that happen to your body. The first thing, and for the ladies, please remember, your stomach pulls in. Men do that as well, and they sound really funny when they get squeaky. But as your stomach gets tenser, your voice goes higher. And when your voice is higher, you sound less confident. Okay? Relax, keep your voice down, and talk slowly. If I talk like this, and I carry on like this, and I never ever stop, will you follow me? Yeah. You always talk faster when you tense. Because you really, everything just tries and run through your. So make sure that you try and be slow. Make sure that you're confident. And when you use a pointer, if I point, I can have it steady. But if I'm tense, I shake like this. Okay? Just a little bit. If I shake a little bit like that, by the time it gets here, it shakes all over the place. And you can present a wonderfully calm press and everything, and this little shiver in your hand goes everywhere there. So it might be very difficult. Please see if you can present with a pointer. Pointers, people think they're easy, they're not that easy. So see how you can do that, and try and be confident and move, talk about it and understand what you're doing. What you're trying to present is you're presenting your overall design, and then people will start questioning. And when you get questioned, that becomes really important that you can respond. So make sure that you know everything that's in your proposal and have a little bit things behind it as well. Because you do not want to respond and sound like an idiot. And even more importantly, people are going to phrase their comments in an attacking voice. And if somebody tells you that's wrong, you don't ever go on the defense. You do not say, no. You start by saying, that is an interesting comment, or thank you for your comment, we will take it on board. That's it. Don't go fighting with them. You're not in a position that you want to fight with a group of elderly or younger. I mean, Keith is sitting here, mentally fossilized people that really believe in their own importance. You fight with them, you're a student, and you might find your life very, very difficult. Okay? And it's not a professional. You acknowledge their feedback. Even if you feel that you want to burst out in tears and scream and kill a few people, which you very likely will feel like. Okay, it's not the end of the world. You're not the only person. If you walk out of there and the tears are streaming down your face, you're kicking things, and I mean this is very, very sensitive. But several years ago, I supervised a person in this room. And he didn't cry, but I can tell you his temper was pretty violent sometimes. So, it's horrible. Dr.
You said you wouldn't say you would.
He's the only person. But you get uptight and you're stressed in that situation. And you feel that people are attacking you. It's not you they're attacking, it's whatever's up there and what's been presented. And everybody might be giving something meaningful. That is why you need your supervisor or a person that is not feeling attacked to take notes. Because things might just go through your ears. You might only hear certain bits. And it's really important.
And we've all been there.
We've all been there. I can assure you there were times that I also have a pretty violent temper. Okay.
I mean, even once you have your PhD and you go and present your research at a conference and you think that your research is brilliant, and the first person that puts their hand up says, I actually think that what you presented is crap. That happens.
And they might even use those words.
Yes.
And I feel if you're really a well-experienced academic, you can tell a person that he's an idiot and pretty useless by using such wonderfully, calmly phrased terms that I really think that the scholarly level of your work is inappropriate. You should probably consider the choice to follow a degree. Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? So it comes in various forms. Some might be aggressive, doesn't matter. But you have to remain confident. You've got to take that information on board, and you have to present. What you've got at the point that you're presenting is what you've got. But you must be able to think calmly and respond appropriately. And I can't overemphasize the word appropriately. Be calm when you go in there, because you really, really sometimes want to get up over a table and throttle something. And in fact, when another of my doctor's students presented his design, and it was working in a fairly qualitative way in a dominant quantitative environment, I did personally want to fall over the table and get hold of the chairperson and whack him, just because he's a positivist idiot. But you know, this was also true. So your supervisor might also feel in a very, very uncomfortable position. So remember that, stay calm. They're not going to kill you, nothing seriously will happen, and whatever feedback you get, you have to take on board. If they can say, what about? It means that there's some little gap in your document, and the fact that they say, what about, when you present your proposal mean that they're not going to say, what about, when you hand in your final document for examination.
And the ones that, because also now remember that you have basically a week after this presentation to finalize your proposal for the FHDC. So, no, in fact, you have a few days. The FHDC minutes close next week Friday. So you have time to rework it and to bring those comments into it, so that when it goes to the FHDC, people won't say what about, because you've already addressed the what about.
Okay. What could happen to you is two things. People can say, this is useless, go away, you bloody idiot. And in nicer words, of course. Okay? At which point you go away, you cry, and you have a deep and sensible conversation with your supervisor on, are you maybe just, and we'll go through the different layers, presenting at a level that you're not yet at, trying to present a final proposal when you're really not quite there yet, and that you just needed more time to get up to speed. They can also say, okay, this sounds promising, but please don't hand in your proposal for this Friday. Take time to prepare your proposal and resubmit it to us, or just improve it to your supervisor's satisfaction. Or they can say a few minor changes or no changes and hand in further. So there's a very important decision-making criteria happening there. People are trying to decide, is this sensible? Remember all those things that I tell you about the proposal, what is this based on? It's a basis of the contract. And the DRIC has to make certain that they're only presenting sound contracts to the FHDC. So that's what they're going to do. And many of these options might occur. Okay? None of this is a reflection on you as a person. It's simply a reflection of how far you are in this process. Some of you are sitting here and you have in fact been working from last year. Your proposals will be a lot sharper, a lot slicker than other people. Some of you have basically only started in March and are working full time, and you're struggling to find the right research problem. You may not be so far. So it depends where you are. But it's not aimed to destroy your personality totally, to shred your confidence and to drive you to drink. And if you get driven to drink, just make sure it's not too long so that you can't work on those improvements, okay? Few hours, quite fine.
I just have a question. If you want to present your proposal, you might be finished, but you haven't submitted your abstract because you changed it, then you still do your proposal, do you have to?
Yeah, you can. You add the abstract on top.
Top of it, and it's still fine.
You add your abstract on top, yeah. Then they can, if they're then happy with your proposal, it's a slight risk because you have to be very confident about what you have. Your supervisor has to be really happy that you have actually moved beyond the abstract level. But at this point where we are with the development, you can do that. Who else? Somebody else wanted to ask something. Okay. Okay. So you have 3 different options. You can present around the 12-page proposal. If you present around the 12-page proposal, it means that you may have the option to actually complete your proposal, touch it up, and hand it in for the FHDC. Okay? You have to decide whether you're there. Your supervisor has to agree that you're there. Okay? It's really, really, really reckless to insist that you present a full proposal when your supervisor finds some limits around what you're presenting. You can also present around the abstract or the 150 words, and I sometimes interchangeably would refer to that as your concept proposal or your abstract. The term used at TUT is the abstract, but it's really around your concept proposal. Your concept proposal is a lower degree of preciseness. So it's a 50% accuracy, where your full proposal needs to be around the 80-90% accuracy. So when you're presenting your abstract, there might be a lot of things refining, but you do not want to present your abstract and change your title if you know that you're going to have to redo that. If you're not yet certain enough that this is where you have to be, and your proposal is just fleshing out that. So you have a third option, and some people might be at that point because you had to go back to your problems, whatever. You can simply present your research problem. Okay. So you have to make those choices. You have to make them today, put them down there, and you've got to confirm them with your supervisor. Okay. Now let's look at it. Each one of these have a fairly detailed rubric. I'll talk to that later in more detail, but if you look at this, there is a document in here that starts on top that says 12-page proposal. Some of you aren't going to go nearly, yeah, the back of the one pack. In that 12-page proposal, you see that you've seen the proposal document rubric that we had initially. We've changed this to fit exactly on the proposal format that is required for the 12-page proposal. Okay? So in there, I tell you clearly what needs to be in your introduction and problem statement. Have you done the following? So for you to try around finishing your document, or even get your document to the point that you can get your proposal or your presentation ready, and you haven't checked these things, it's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? These are exactly what we require from you. Your feedback will come back from your supervisor on your document around these themes, saying you've achieved it, you've not achieved it, or need some more work, so that you know where you are. And it goes on for 3 different pages, so it is very detailed. And it maps exactly on what we presented last week, the final thing when I spoke to what must be in your proposal itself. You will notice that there are 2 annexures at the back. Okay. At a doctoral level, those annexures are mandatory, or one of them. So if you've done a full literature review, you might add that full literature review as an annexure, because your literature review in your proposal would be much shorter. Yeah. And it really provides depth. The moment that is on there, it's not that it necessarily will change your marks, but it will certainly provide the evidence to the committee that you know what you're talking about. So that's very important. But if you are at a doctoral level, you either do that full document, or you do a short literature annexure, which is the next one. Because at a doctoral level, you have to prove that this knowledge doesn't exist. Now the recommendation at in the format says something like, print out your literature searches. And you know that currently we do not have a shortage of literature. Any literature search will probably come up with, I don't know how many hundreds of articles with those topics in them, the words in that topic, but you have to go deeper to see if it actually addresses the problem that you've stated. So whatever you present has to convince people of those final sessions. And please note, it doesn't count for marks. It's just go, no go. Because if you haven't got that and it's not compelling, and you're at the doctoral level, you basically be told, oops, we really don't believe you that there's no body of knowledge, no literature around us. You're not going to contribute anything. So it's really, really important. Okay, so let us go through the first option. Your abstract presentation. Your abstract presentation is the one in the second pack, in the short pack, the smaller pack. There's a presentation that has the heading abstract presentation. I'll get to that now, and I'll put it on the. That goes together, should be read together with a rubric that's a concept proposal. So although you have a few slides, you have to convince your audience that all of these things in this rubric has been addressed. Okay? Or if you can't talk to it in detail when they question you, you must be able to convince them. So let's quickly go through. And this rubric really talks about presentation 9. I can't remember what day it was that we really did that workshop about your abstract development. Most of this detail was discussed then, and you can get it on the wiki. In fact, these rubrics and templates are on the wiki. So anybody that don't know how to get hold of it should make very, very certain that they can get hold of it before they leave today. Okay. So let me just go to the abstract or the okay. Okay. This is a slideshow that you will present if you have decided that you want to talk about your 150-word abstract. That this is sound, everybody is happy about it. Now, what you need to make absolutely sure is that you have that heading there, that people know where you are trying to present, so that you're not presenting your concept and then they get really stressed because you haven't presented your full proposal. You've got to put your name. When I put something in brackets, please don't have the if applicable in there, you know. If there's no supervisor, you just say no supervisor assigned yet. If you have more than one, put down who they are. And also put down the department. Now you have different statuses. Some of you might be registered and some of you might be busy with the redrafting of your abstract. Your abstract got approved, but when you started unpacking that, you realized that this abstract, what you got approved, is not exactly where you should be going. Or you couldn't get the evidence, or you couldn't get access, or something like that. So put your status in there. Okay. Now these headings are very simple. They follow the headings in the abstract. So if you've written your abstract, you talk about these things. You do not copy and paste your abstract. Okay? Don't put written things there and stand here and read them. This is not exactly what you want to do. Okay? And this is not... It happens. People do that. Okay. So the first bit, you present at least the context. What is the context that you did your research in? Remember assignment 1. Okay. And you present the empiric or the practice substantiation. That means, why is this really a problem in reality? Government reports, World Bank reports, Statistics South Africa, presentations by credible people. Once again, that's not thing that somebody wrote in their blog halfway during the night. It's something that from a credible source, but it is not necessarily an academic journal. You have to tell us, and you've got to convince us, that there is really something important about this problem. So your substantiation, and you've got one slide for that. So you've got to really select what you're putting there, and you've got to talk about it. Now if I've got one slide around it and I can talk 1 minute around that, yes?
I just want to ask, in our proposals mostly is out of references, so now when we're doing this presentation, because I can talk a lot about, but do I have to specifically only say, according to this and this said this, and then talk from it?
Please don't say, he said this and she said
That's
this.
what I'm asking.
Put
Okay.
a statement and you can
And
put
you
in
elaborate
brackets.
on your own knowledge.
Okay. You will note in that rubric that if there's, in this proposal, if you do not have 2 body of knowledge literature references and at least 1 empiric reference, there's going to be problems. So put them in brackets. Green 2007 or something like that. But bullet point, bracket. Don't put the whole thing out. You must be able to talk to that. You tell them the story, and you tell them the story that was written there, and you can talk a lot more in 15 minutes than reading 150 words. Okay? So you must be able to talk around the topic. You shouldn't have that abstract and read the abstract and stand around there. And you must expect a lot of questions. Okay. So context in your empiric or practice substantiation, why it's really a problem. The next slide is still the whole background issue, but now you have to tell us why there's no literature, and when, or limited or no specific at master's level, and when you're doctoral level, why there's a gap in the body of knowledge. 1 slide. And probably there's around, I think, 10 slides or so for these slides. So you must just decide. You may add 1 or 2, but you have to talk about it. Your problem statement is not 350 different templates. It's 1 sentence. Remember? And make sure that the words you used in that problem statement is exactly the same concepts, constructs, words, terms that you've used in your title. And it's very easy to work at the bottom, but you keep on holding that old title that no longer talks to your problem on your title. And if you've presented your title, people expect something out of this document, and then you talk about something else, they get really, really tense. And they tell you your scope is not clear, there's no clear line of thought, all kinds of words that basically you could avoid by making sure your title and your problem has exactly the same words. So 1 clear statement about your problem statement here. Then your motivation. Once again, please go back to the presentation. You've got the notes. It's on the wiki around what you put in your abstract. Your motivation talks to the needs. What needs are you going to satisfy? Okay. 1, what is happening, what needs in the practice? What are you going to solve? And several of you have gotten the end of this is a consulting job. I think there's very few of you that have spoken to us that didn't at one time or another got told that you're busy with a consulting job. Okay? Remember, your need is not only to solve the problems of company so, or situation so. In practice, it's about what can happen if you solve this problem. It's not only for company so, it will be for several other typical forms of company. What are you going to do in the practice? Most of you are in management. Management, what does it do around management practice? In fact, the next one deals with the body of knowledge. What need are you going to do about the theory, the development that you do through your empiric research? Masters, what precisely are you going to do now? At a master's level, you're doing something precisely that there's only limited knowledge about. Okay? Or what? So you have to put that down. And very importantly, how does whatever you do link to the South African developmental imperative? We discussed that. Or if you're not doing South African work, to the relevant country, or to SADC, to Africa, whatever you're doing. What is it doing? So your motivation is that you are addressing real needs through this work. So it's worthwhile to support you by approving you because you have a strong motivation. This will be useful. And that's really what this whole slide is about. The statement utility in domain, some of you have seen that in the topic. That means this ability to have practical use. Okay? In your domain, marketing, hospitality, whatever, it has real use beyond just solving the specific companies or the specific situation. Your research purpose. Now your research purpose will contain your research aim at least. You don't necessarily have to put your aim, because your aim will really be the rewording of your problem, but it will certainly have your primary research question. Some of you may have primary hypothesis, those of you that are going fully quant. Okay. What sub-questions do you have? Either stated as objectives or sub-questions. If you have hypothesis, sub-hypothesis, state them. And propositions. Remember, the term proposition is a statement that's very similar to a hypothesis. It serves the same purpose, but it's not stated in a way that you need to use statistics to solve it. The way that we phrase our hypothesis is so that we can use statistics to solve it. The next one that we're going to do is your research design. Now we need to talk to that, and we need to refer exactly to the item research design in here. Okay. Now the big thing that you want to talk, and that's assignment 3 and 5. You can probably not put together a proposal if you haven't really started dealing with your assignment 5. And it's not about, I'm going to do a survey. What research design are you going to follow? Okay? Is it going to be qualitative? Is it going to be a case study research? Is it going to be an evaluation study? Is it going to be a participatory action research? What is it that you're going to do? It could be straightforward a survey if you're doing full quantitative. It could be modeling. Remember those hundreds of words that I went through? Modeling, futures research, da 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 da. Which one of those are you doing? And if you're doing mixed method, state that you're doing a mixed method and how you're doing it. Now, if you look at your research design, remember those graphical representations that I showed you, how you draw what you're doing one after another? They talk much better. You put them up there and you can talk around them. But you must be able that you can talk precisely about what you're going to do about your research design, how you're going to sample. Because what people want to do here is that you've considered your research design, and what you're likely going to do, 50% accuracy about your research design will map on your research problem. So the items here is the design congruent, aligned, all those things, with your research problem, primary question, whatever you've phrased there? Is there enough detail around the design? And that at a minimum requires you to identify what design, at the doctoral level, your epistemological perspective. Okay. It requires you to identify and describe your population. Several of you have received very nasty comments if you haven't got your population. It has to identify how you've gone around sampling, if it's necessary, how you've selected cases. I haven't really explored all of those, but it must tell people what you're going to do. And even more important, and that's where there's some real stress, is around what are you going to do in the analysis? Are you going to use descriptive statistics? Are you going to do inferential statistics? Are you going to do factor analysis? Are you going to do regression, if you're talking about the more quants ones? Are you going to do content analysis? Are you going to do What are you going to do? And in fact, it would be very, very sensible there if you do triangulation to talk about that. You've got to actually tell us how you're going to analyze. You may do regression and in brackets using the SPSS package. But just saying I'm going to whack all of this into the SPSS package in there and I'm going to press one button and out will come an analysis doesn't help much. How are you going to analyze it? Are you going to use Excel? Are you use SPSS, pink pencil, green pen? There's no difference. You're going to use a package to do that, but what are you going to do? And exactly the same on qualitative. You're going to use Atlas TI, but what are you going to do with Atlas TI? Okay. So this one causes a lot of pain around the abstract. So actually your research design and how you're going to go around it is quite critical. So you've got to have a lot of confidence around that and be able to talk to that clearly, argue it, support it. And then of course a short contribution that say, wow, I'm the greatest thing around. I'm going to do this contribution. It's basically just a short statement of how great this work will be. If you don't end up with end your presentation with something like that, it just fizzles out. So it's important to make a statement there and to make sure that that's actually what you're going to do. Save the world, get world peace, deal with the hunger, save, love each other. You are not in a Miss World contest, okay? Be realistic. You've got brains. All of you have got really serious working brains. So don't go around, I'm going to save the world, and cut your eyelashes. It's not the kind of thing you've got to put on there. Okay, those of you that want to go in this choice, is it clear? The ones that are more or less there. Okay. The next option that you have, and this is very specifically if you are not that happy with your research design and you haven't got your research hypothesis questions clearly done. So basically, you're not yet really at assignment 3, 4 and 5. Okay? You have the option to simply provide your research problem statement. That's not assignment 1. That's a 100-page document that has all the items up to motivation in there. Every single one of these have presentation. So if you haven't referred appropriately using the correct TUT version of Harvard, and if you haven't used English in a business-like manner, obviously this is going to count against you. It might count against you seriously if you haven't referred correctly. So please remember this, in every one of there's a presentation. Now if you follow this choice, you have to write a 100-word, 1-page document, very much like your abstract, just the last 2 headings aren't there. Okay. Have you, sorry, okay. Enjoy your weekend, may you work hard. Okay, now if you follow that choice, you'll see that your presentation that you follow is very, very similar. Okay, you have the first ones are exactly the same up to motivation, and you have a conclusion. So if you are not comfortable about your research design, if you're going to fluff it in there and be, rather go for this option. You do not have to have your abstract finished at this point if you're not there. And by creating an impression that you're a total idiot in front of the drug, that's a first impression that they may not forget again. Okay? So if you make the choice, it's very much the same thing. It just finishes before you actually go into detail about the structure of your research and your research design. Now those of you that think this, either one of these options is what you're going to present, come and sign off that you have and what choice you've made. You don't have to stay for the rest where I'm talking through the presentation of the full proposal. The rubric, you've got it. You can read it. Okay, yeah, just wait a moment.
So what would be the implication? What would be the implication on us after we, for example, we've settled for option 1? What will be the process after that, option 2 and option 3?
Next month, you've got to have your abstract in. You have a month from now to when your abstract has to be in. You basically have 1 month. That's the option. Okay, so can we quickly have those that want to leave? Go that way. Quietly, you and your cohort, cease and desist. We're presenting now. So are you ready? Are they ready?
They're doing the concept proposal.
Okay, then she better sit in here, go and talk to Prof. Barry, that she's got it quite. If you haven't decided, well, but you, no, oh sorry, I thought you're not going to do a full proposal. Okay, okay.
The one we saw just now will be doing the short one.
Yeah, that's
The
fine.
research problem.
Yeah,
Miss Mbakero.
that's great.
One of
Okay,
that.
yeah, I think
So
that's,
she's doing the short one.
yeah,
The other two can do this.
okay. And she must be able to talk a little bit about the rest, but, and she will be able to.
I think if there's additional questions on these, she must have the information in case there's particular questions that you register. So there might be questions.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Now this is the real job. Pay attention. Those of you that are staying here has actually survived the whole course. So you are at the point that we expected you to be. And that is quite something. So I'm really, really proud of you. And I hope that you are ready and confident and feel satisfied with what you're about to present. Are you?
Ask us after next week.
Okay, I'll ask you after next week. Okay, exactly the same kind of thing at the table, at the title set. That's your research title, that title. And there's no qualifier on top. Okay, you're presenting the whole thing. You'll see that the headings that I'm putting here talks exactly, in some places there might be small groupings of differences, to this full proposal. Okay. So, your introduction, remember we have had some ideas. Those of you that are doing your proposal, make absolutely sure you're on the right template. Your introduction is the part that afterwards your problem statement is a single sentence. So in the first few slides, you want to present your introduction. I think it's around 3 pages in your document, but you really want to present it. You want to get people on your page. So what you present is first, as everybody else, but now it's not called the background, it's called the introduction, the context, empiric, and practice substantiation. This is it. Why are you going to do it? Why is it a problem? Why is it really a problem? You'll see that you have a lot fewer slides to present it because you have many more topics that you have to cover. That doesn't mean you've got to be really superficial. It means that you've got to be absolutely selective and make sure that you present a compelling argument. Now, unlike the 150 proposal guys, you have 12 pages and you cannot read 12 pages in 15 minutes. So you have to provide a condensed version. And remember, it's a lot easier to write about it long than to actually bring it to its key elements. And you have to remember that everybody has not read this proposal. Okay? So you have 1 page to talk to it. Context bullet, talk to it. Empiric substantiation, a few bullets. And practice, and context, empiric, practice substantiation. Just a few bullets. The next thing is very critical if you're at doctoral level. But even at master's level, you have now got a much deeper reading of what is available in the literature. So when you talk about the body of knowledge, you have to have references here in brackets. You have to go and tell the guys why there is a gap. Appropriate level of a gap at master's and a doctoral level at doctoral level. Okay? Clearly, bullets, when you have references in brackets, name the way that you do in text referencing. You can probably have your full reference list at the end, but that's it. And it's quite useful to have your full references on the last page so that you can go back to it if people start asking you questions about that. On a single document, there's 12 slides, so it's a bit difficult. You may probably, if you push it, go to 15 slides, but be careful. You put your problem statement, one sentence. Remember, you've got it condensed to one sentence. And your geographic demarcation, one clear statement, where you're doing it. Now, it might be where physical, but if you start looking at those bullet points, it could also be what type of industry, what type of organization, what is it that you're doing, and how, and probably physical demarcation as well. One slide. Conceptualization. Now if you look at the bullet, here up here, oops, I haven't put that in. It is in fact much higher than that. Okay? There's something in the balance of this thing out. Your conceptualization is critical. Your detailed literature review you can't present, but in your conceptualization, you are convincing your audience that you know the detail. Remember, the thing says, first thing, epistemological perspective. You can use qualitative, quantitative. Are you doing positivist work? Are you doing mixed method work? Are you a pragmatist? What are you doing? What key concepts and constructs are you doing? If you say something about the motivation, what do you mean with motivation?
Sometimes they'll be confused with it. When we talk about epistemology, philosophy, and paradigms.
You know what? It depends what book you read. It really depends on what book you read. If you look at Bobby and Mouton, they have a few things, Saunders specifically. Saunders doesn't even talk about epistemology. They would basically talk about it as a philosophical statement. But that is your philosophical status. If you're at doctoral level, saying a philosophical statement is not going to cut it. So at doctoral level, you have to have a very, very deep knowledge about what exactly is cooking epistemologic and what that means. Okay? For these things, go read the session that we had, or go through the session that we had last Friday. Because in that session, I went into a lot of detail about what is meant by anything. So, key literature around it. Basically, you want to put those concepts, list them, and talk around it, and the definitions. You might also want to do a conceptual model or framework. Now, the reality is, there are people that are doing a conceptual framework as the product of their research. So you are developing a conceptual framework, but when you start with this, you have a theoretical framework, a conceptual framework, what is affecting what. And it might make a lot more sense to put in there little diagrams. The following factors influence the following thing, and have a framework in there, a model in there about what you're talking about, and then talking and describing those. Now, when you talk about these things, make very certain you have detail around it and that you can talk to. Not pages, because these pages drop, they splatter apart, and also be very, very careful about it, because if you tense, big pages go like that, but smaller cue cards that you've put them in half don't vibrate that much. Just more sensible to do that. Staple them together and make them clear that you can read them, so that when it's necessary, you can refer to the detail. You must be able to talk to it, but it helps one if you have that. Okay. Conceptualization. You know what the variables are, you know what the concepts are, you know how they link, you understand this, and this is critical. It's not a very big part, it's half a page. It's 1 page, I think, your proposal, but it's critical. If you can carry this one off, a lot of the other things would be easier. If your conceptualization is weak, you may have some serious issues. Then, remember your research proposal, the 12-pager, talks about your literature and your research design together. Basically, it's how are you going to solve this problem. Remember, we've got this wonderful diagram that you get out of assignment 3. You need this from the literature and this from the empiric data. This part of the literature, what you're presenting, is not your full literature review. Go back to the notes of last week about what you need to put into your literature. This slide is about convincing people that you know what's cooking in the body of knowledge, you know about the factors, and you have a deep enough knowledge that your research design is clear. And it will certainly talk, you're probably not going to say there's no model or there's no this, but this model is weak, that model is weak, all those things. Trying to convince people that you know what the current knowledge is. Research is about understanding what we know currently and adding to that. And if you cannot say what you know currently, it's really difficult to say what I'm going to add to it. So even if you haven't done a detailed literature review, you must be able to do that. Now it's very tempting to go on for slides and slides here. What's important to convince people? You've got some points up there and you have your crypt notes. This guy said, etc. Just for your added convenience. Of course, it's much better if you can remember those things, but under stress, these things disappear from your mind. They just go, and you can't find that word. Okay? So just make certain that you've got those. Research design. Now, if you look at the rubric, you'll see there's many little bits about your research design. Okay? Many points, but you do not have many slides. So how are you going to succinctly communicate your research design? Diagrams work. What are you going to put there so that people follow? And what do you have to convince them about? You've seen in that research design. Now I've spoken about what you have to have in your concept proposal. That is important. Okay, your research design, let's just go through that. Your literature, so much bullets you've got to cover. Your empirical design, so much. So make sure that you use the slide to put that together and make absolutely certain that when you questioned, you can answer any one of these underlying things. You cannot go around and be questioned and appear to be very, very insecure around this. Okay? So make sure that you've got your research design. Make sure you've got population. Who's your population? How are you going to sample? And if people ask you, what about this, what about that, that you can respond. You are likely to be heavily targeted around that for questioning. Your literature, what's the current body of knowledge, and this is probably some of the points that you will be targeted on. We want to know if you can do it. Separate from your research design is once again the analysis that you're going to do. How are you going to do that analysis? Okay. And your contingency. Now what's important in your contingency, it is is what limitations exist in your research. Now if you remember, you've got limitations from the way that you've put together your problem, your questions. And you've got limitations inherent in your research design. Every research design has benefits and it has limitations. We've spoke around some of it and you can go through that. So there are limitations. But there are also possible limitations, some threats, some challenges to validity, reliability, all of those things that can go wrong. So it might be in your case bias. I'm going to deal with something and there's very serious bias. Or it could be something, and what's the other one that I had here in the example? The response rate is critical. I have a very, very small sample. There's not that many people, so my response rate is critical. What are you going to do about it? Both of these on one slide. Yeah? The analysis is the last bit, and your contingency. The contingency, if you look at the thing, some people won't really have serious contingencies, but at least be able to say that you don't have one. Ethical considerations, don't give me the bump about you've got to do no harm, da da da. What can go wrong? What are your issues? You're using human subjects that are sensitive, that has potential harm. What is it that can go wrong? Identify the issues and tell us what you're going to do to mitigate it. That might include informed consent. It might include destruction of sensitive information. What is it that you're going to do with it? And your record keeping. 5 years, but there might be really sensitive personal information that is recognizable, that can be linked to a person, that you may have to destroy after you've coded it. So it depends on your design. 5 years, and please remember, it will be kept 5 years on a laptop. Remember that discussion that we had? Where is it going to be kept? Who's going to have it? Because in the next 5 years you might have a surprise SARS audit kind of thing. And where is your evidence? And if you don't have it, it could be really a problem. Your thesis or your dissertation itself is kept by TUT and it will be kept electronically. What it means, if you say it's kept electronically, is that anybody can Google it. Okay, so you've got to be really proud of it. Okay, next one. This is where we get into the really nasty bits, is your research plan. The items that talk to research plan is your chapter outline and due dates. You might want to plan your activities, but you at least have to give that chapter outline and due dates. How are you going to go about it? What's the timelines? When you're going to do what? When you're going to deliver what? It's sensible to give a Gantt chart with activities and your actual deliverables, but it's however you want to communicate that. And as agreed with your supervisor and as practical. You will see around ethical, that's explicitly stated. There is something in there that says realistic scope and executable plan. Ethical clearance takes time. Getting data takes time. Designing a questionnaire takes time. Make sure that you don't depend on the fairies and other magic. Okay? You must be able to do it. No, they're not on your side. I can assure you they're not on your side.
Are you telling us there's no tooth fairy?
There's no tooth fairy, and Christmas Father, there's some doubts about that as well. So things aren't going to happen magically. And you're going to need time off sometimes, and reality happens, and you work and all those things. My reality included 2 babies during my doctorate. It really havoc on my planning. Okay. Budget and dissemination. Now these things are easy to prevent. You put your budget there, items. You tell your dissemination. These are not so much to think, but you've got to present them. And your conclusion statement. This, you will note, is 13 slides, 12 if you exclude the introductory. There is very little scope for having even a single or maximum one slide extra. You've got to time it, you've got to practice it. You must make sure that you have your detail available. Either you've fully written a proposal that you know exactly where to go find the bit, or cue cards or something. And it's always sensible to have your proposal next to you, which you know on what page what is written, so that you can refer to it. Remember, your audience have not read your 12 page, so you've got to convince them in that 15 minutes of everything that's in your 12 page. That means you've got to be very selective, very clear, and very logical. Don't jump a part of the argument. Okay, is there anything else that you want to know? Yeah?
Can you just explain exactly after this, what is the next step?
The next
process. Supposing then it's a go, it's
Go
fine.
ahead.
We like what
The next thing is we've got the support in to help you with the ethics application. So if you look at those plan presentations, there's some help to get you through the ethics. When you've got your ethics, there are clearance, there are going to be other sessions on different forms of analysis. There are going to be different forms in detail. That happens next year, but it's no longer as part of a program. It's the ones that you need to go to. Always required.
Are we also required to fine-tune our real proposal? This is a presentation. Yes.
Yeah, no, your final proposal, if they say great stuff, your final proposal is in for the FHDC by Friday next week.
Yeah. So you have to then update
The same
by
week.
Friday.
The same week.
Yes.
You present on Wednesday, Friday it must be it.
Yes.
Yep. Or they might say, oops, rework next FHDC, which is when? Next
Or
year.
The following, no, the
Next
following
week.
month.
Next month.
October.
October.
Okay. But the research showcase will only be for those that go
Yeah.
through.
So remember that if your proposal is accepted by this coming week, you must keep the 30th of August open, because you will then come and do the same presentation with the modifications.
Updated,
Yeah,
improved.
with the modifications updated to the FHPC. Alright. So it's not the end. No, this is not the end. It's another presentation. Because this one is only to the drug. So it's only to your department. Whereas after that, it goes to the faculty. And then after that, it's basically accepted.
After that, it's the next time when you defend your final, you stand in here and you have people sitting here and you might doing this in very many ways and you defend your final work.
And how many people get this?
Sorry?
How many people get this?
I don't know how your oral defense is.
Yeah, there's normally five people at the drug. Yeah.
Any female there?
And Monday will be me and
You know your drug.
Tuesday and Wednesday will be either me or Rio, because we are doing parallel sessions there.
At the business school. Dr. Kelly has given me another template, the business school template. What should I do? Should I use the
When
business
did
school
he
template?
give you the business
Send
school?
it to me
We,
couple of weeks.
we spoke to him yesterday.
What did he say?
And we said that we'll give these templates to them.
This one.
And did we send him through? Have we sent these templates through to Dr. Kelly?
No, I haven't, because I
Okay.
got them today. I'll send you.
They will be with Dr. Kelly for your workshop tomorrow. You've got a workshop tomorrow, don't
No,
you?
on Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
I'll send, I'm going to, I just want to do a presentation on how to do the presentation, and then tomorrow I will send the slides and the schedule, the updated schedule after we've spoken now, and the templates to all the supervisors. All right. So it
So
should
that I
be
know
with your
my
supervisors.
slot.
Yeah.
My slot will be
Yes.
tomorrow. You said that, or by Saturday.
Your slot is already here. It just depends. Yeah, the time is here. It just depends on whether somebody maybe before he cancels or something like that. But so the final thing I will send out tomorrow. So all of you please just check, because you've looked now at your time, and it might change if somebody before you cancels. Okay.
Otherwise, we might use the time to be really. Okay. Good luck, guys. Sorry, there's some more questions. Wait, there's some more questions.
Okay, and you must all come past me, right?
Quiet, quiet. Shh. Respect.
On the actual day, who introduces you? Do you just walk in and then?
I think we'll try, and it depends from drip to drip. So it will be either one of us or it will be your supervisor. Is likely to be your supervisor if you have one. And that's part of what they do. Anything else? Good luck, guys. I know the ones that I see will do well. I hope the rest as well. Okay.